Okay.
All good? Fantastic. So at 8:03, I'll call the meeting to order for the planning board today, April 14th. We'll start off with a roll call. Table first and then I'll do Zoom in. Wendy Rafferty, remember?
John Racine, member. Rob Wilson, member. Alan Burko, alternate. Bill Spence, member. Rich Rita, select board officio.
Nancy Knight, member. Oops.
Mike?
Michael Pell member, and I don't know how long you'll have me because our internet in the middle of the ocean is in and out, so we'll see.
Thank you.
Bill Larson, alternate.
Thank you. Said everyone? Okay. Good. Thank you. So we'll start off with reviewing the minutes for March 3rd. Anyone have any comments, corrections? No? Do you have a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes of the March 3rd meeting as presented.
I'll second that.
All righty. All those in favor, Wendy Rathgeber, aye.
John Racine, aye.
Rob Wilson, aye.
Bill Spence, aye.
Rich Rita, aye.
Nancy Knight, aye.
Michael Pell, aye.
Great, thank you, everybody. Moving on to the March 10th minutes. All this evidence that we've been busy. Any comments? This was our regular meeting.
Couple very minor points, line 54. After were, the waivers were, should be a full colon. Line 74, same, after were, full colon. And then I would put semicolons instead of periods after every point.
Line 52. Michael Pell refused himself. I would write because he is an abutter. Line 54.
I agree. I recuse myself.
Okay.
Line 54. I suggest inserting the word requested, the requested waivers. And I think we need like a verb in there. The requested waivers were to make the width of pavement be 20 feet and to make the width of the right of way
Oh, yeah, right.
and to make a T turn around. And cul-de-sac is hyphenated.
Okay.
Right should be. RIG.
Yes.
Okay.
Line 68. Wendy stated that she has concerns. And James Sununu said, in the event that the planning board does not approve the plan as presented. I can send this to you.
I got it.
And instead of Dave, to write Tyrell. Tyrell could revise the plans.
Okay.
Where are we? Line 75. Number 1. I would suggest that the modifying of the monuments to meet the requirements. Comma, that is, comma, they need to be identified, etc.
Well, I think it's pretty clear the way it's written, though. The monuments don't yet meet the requirements. That's,
It's my suggestion.
Anyone have any weighing in? No one feels strongly about it,
About changes to that?
about the way it's worded?
I kind of agree with you, Wendy.
Okay. Anything else? Appreciate your thoroughness, Bill.
Oh,
Always.
yeah. I have more, but I'm not gonna bother with it.
No, if there are things that should be changed, you know,
Well, after each of these numbers, it shouldn't start with a capital. Each of the numbers should be followed by a comma and then that's a two, and then the specific calculations to open the space. That's it. None of those should be capitalized. And the last one, after number 5, then it should be comma and 6. A review of the legal documents.
Okay.
I think that's enough for today.
okay. Anyone else have anything? Do you have a motion?
Turn out.
Oh, he's not seated.
You can't do it.
I'll move to accept the draft minutes for the 10th of March meeting as amended.
I second.
All those in favor, Wendy Rathgeber, aye.
John Racine, aye.
Rob Wilson, I.
Bill Spence, aye.
Retreat, aye.
Nancy Knight, aye.
Mike?
I don't know if I vote on that because I had recused myself for most of that meeting. But I'll say aye anyway to make life simple.
Yeah, you were present as a full member. You recused yourself for part of it, but thank you.
Whatever. I mean,
Okay.
so
March- Thank you. The March 24 meeting minutes, very brief. Comments here?
I couldn't find anything, Wendy.
Nothing? Oh, geez, no. All right.
Do you want something?
Do you have? Oh. All right. Do we have a motion then, if everyone's coming up blank?
Okay, I move to accept the minutes of the March 24th meeting as presented.
I'll second that. John Racine,
All those in favor, Wendy Rathgeber, aye.
John Racine, aye.
Rob Wilson, I.
Bill Spence, aye.
Retreat, aye.
Nancy Knight, aye.
Michael Pell, aye.
Excellent. All righty. All of our meeting minutes are set. Now, moving on with our agenda for today. I can't find mine, sorry. The hazard is sitting next to me. At our previous meeting, we had accepted the application for the Green Peak 3, Village Green. I'm not sure exactly. We have Green Peak 3 here. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing for the subdivision and site plan application for this morning. Now we have one copy.
Madam Chairman, I have to recuse myself from this portion, obviously.
Okay. Thank
Michael
you,
Pell.
Mike. Thank you. We'll go ahead and see Alan for this portion.
I may, yep, we'll see. The sea is rising again. I may lose you.
Okay, thanks for the update. Do we have just one copy of the larger? Okay, so for members of the board on the table over there, there are copies of the smaller version, as well as the landscaping and lighting, which we do not have, I guess, in the large format. Is that correct? We just have them in the we all have what we need. Alrighty. Does anyone from Tyrell Group want to make a presentation on what we're looking at today?
Sure, I'll just, I'll introduce here, I'm James Savino from Tyro. We've, since our last meeting, when we initially presented these plans, we've continued to work with the town on some revisions on sewer and the roadway and stormwater to meet all the requirements. So we have a revised proposal in where we had a number of waiver requests on our initial proposal. Right now, we're looking for 2 waivers on these plans. One is to have a turnaround instead of a cul-de-sac. The second is on the turn radius of the road, from Corwood to Devereux. And then we're looking, hoping to get approval with 2 conditions. One is the final configuration of the turnaround to work with the town and DPW to make sure that they are satisfied. And conditional on the state's AOT. We have an AOT application, and the town should have received information about that as well. And then conditional, our approval conditional on satisfying the AOT requirements for the state. So
Has the town received that?
Not
There you go.
unless Dave has received it, I have not seen it yet.
oh, they sent comments back on our AOT application, a copy of which would have gone to the town. And so we're working with DES, is it DES? Sorry. Yeah, DES on the on satisfying their comments on the AOT application. So we would.
James, do you know the date that they sent?
I can look it up. It was a
Yeah,
couple weeks ago.
we'll
It was a couple
find
weeks
it.
ago, but I'll make
Yep.
sure.
We'll
We get
find
a
it.
copy.
Okay.
So that's the highlight. So we like I said, we made those revisions, going back and forth to address some of those issues. For example, where the sewer is going to tie into the town sewer system and things like that. So we have this in front of you, looking for discussion and approval. Any technical questions, I'll refer to Tony from Key Smarts.
What's AOT, James?
Alteration of terrain. So the project exceeds 100,000 square feet, which means that we have to go to State's Department of Environmental Services to get their approval for an alteration of terrain.
I did have one minor thing. On the first sheet, under your notes, says the purpose of the plan is to subdivision of the map 105 into 2, and then in parentheses, 5 lots. So you are looking to do 5 lots here, correct?
I think that refers to the fact that we have 1 lot that we're parceling 4 additional lots off of, so technically that results in 5 lots. We're going from 1 lot to 5 lots.
The large lot.
The large lot and the 4
Yeah, the
small lots.
remainder of the large lot, and then
Okay.
the 4 lots that we're developing.
Okay.
I had a quick question on the AOT, which I just learned what it meant. Does the conservation group need to get involved in that? Because you're changing the terrain? Can you clear that up for me?
So, I'm Tony Basso with Keith Nordstrom.
Hi,
So
Tony.
alteration of terrain is a permit through the state of New Hampshire that when you disturb over 100,000 square feet of contiguous area, okay, for a project, and within a 10-year span. So you have to look back from now 10 years and everything that's happened on there. If it equals 100,000, you have to get an alteration of terrain permit. And what they look at is that they look at your stormwater runoff, they look at your total suspended solids removals, they look at all those kinds of like the treatment of stormwater in general, as well as the runoff, making sure you don't have erosion, things like that, best management practices. They review all our drainage calculations, and it's part of the normal process when you disturb 100,000, which 100,000 is 2.5 acres. So it's not a huge amount of area. But if you disturb that much, you must get this permit. So, but it really, they look at it entirely. They have a set of rules up there. They require certain calculations we have to show that we're taking care of the pollutant loads in stormwater and getting them treated and infiltrating the required amount and discharge it. They look at all of it. So it's a it's a contained process within the state, but it's in usually a lot of the stuff that you guys require are in line with that anyway. So they're together in a sense, but it doesn't, they just take a hard look at all the numbers up there. So, and go through. So they usually give us one comment letter. You have 60 days or something to respond, and you get it done. So we recently gotten a comment letter. Usually the town's copied on it, and then when we get the permit, the town will be copied on it as well. And the permit comes quick usually once we turn in our revised plan. So we're in the process of doing that now. We had some last minute stuff here, like the turnaround, getting that established, which is now done. So we are, that is in process of getting back up to the state soon. We'll have that permit shortly.
Okay, and one other question, the stockpile of fill, how does that get taken care of? Does it stay in a pile? Does it get spread out throughout that area that you're going to be building the lots in those different lots?
So
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Any excess we expect to probably move off site. We don't anticipate leaving any large piles. Some of the fill from the project that's ongoing now is going to be used to help with the grading for this phase of the project, assuming we move ahead with this. But excess, we don't really anticipate leaving on site.
Okay, thank you.
Alteration of terrain actually looks at that as well.
Okay,
And you're not allowed to leave unstable piles for any length of time. So that's part of our AOT permit. We have to designate where those would be, how they'd be protected from causing a problem, so that's even part of the permit. So, and we're not, like you said, we're not proposing to leave it. So.
thank you for the clarification.
Wendy, we just have a comment from YouTube land that it's hard to hear the board members, so if you could speak up as much as you can.
Okay, absolutely. But everyone at the table, at the applicant table is heard all right? Nancy, can you hear everyone presenting for Tyrell?
Yes, I just couldn't hear the last questioner very well, but everybody else I can hear pretty well.
Okay, all right, so board will speak up. Now, speaking of the turnaround, I know what we have printed here shows the previous version.
I have a plan. I'll show you guys and.
Thank you. And we received it electronically. Perhaps over next to Rich. Yeah, next to gentleman. Rich, would you raise your hand? Kidding, yeah. Over there. Maybe. I don't know if that, does that catch all the angles or zoom in for us?
I don't know if
It's okay if you take me out the camera, I don't care.
You can put it in front.
So to start with, the plan we submitted after our last meeting is this one. We went to the 50-foot right of way the whole way, 22 feet of pavement, gravel shoulders, plus shoulders. The units were shifted back a little bit to accommodate it, to straighten out, to designate parking. That was what was submitted. We then, in the process, into the discussion of the turnaround. So this plan represents that it's a full T. So you're going to come straight into a T. The dumpster is straight up the middle, and then so someone will turn in, back up, and leave that way. And we keep it nice and contained. It's right up against those lines, and it keeps as much away from that stream area as possible with this layout. So this is the T, as opposed to what you guys saw in the plan, which was sort of a half a T, I guess. This is a full T. So So that's a big change here. And the other change was the sewer going out this way instead of coming up here, which helped with one of the lines that doesn't get a lot of use. So they were worried about making sure it clean. So we're moving that connection so it won't have that issue. But that's the T turnaround. This is the full-size landscape plan, so there is one. There definitely is one in the set, so I don't know why you don't have, but
Okay,
we'll make sure you get it.
thank you.
So,
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions about this.
Has public safety reviewed
Yeah,
the,
all of these changes are okay with public works and public safety.
okay,
They've addressed all of the concerns.
and the location of the dumpster at the head of
It's
the
not ideal, but we can make it work.
okay.
Still, one of the concerns is the snow storage. That is, you can imagine, I'm driving a plow truck, I have to push all the snow all the way down to the end where the T is.
Well, there was some added right on the corner on
Yeah.
both, which I was a little concerned with too, because there's both sides of the initial turn there, right?
Yeah. There's snow storage in here, snow storage around here, this big swath coming around here, so we got a piece of it here. And then, definitely, you end up pushing a stretch of it to the end and along the sides, but there's snow storage in this first part coming to the past the bend. And then there's a bunch of it around that, obviously. But where the driveways are, everything close together,
Yes, you can't push
limited
snow to the
between the
sides.
islands. Right.
So you're gonna need something like, well, a loader to make a big pile at the end of the T.
Yep, they will have to, that's, I'm sure they'll have to figure out how to manage snow removal in this area, part of the condominium, for sure.
Yeah, the length of the legs of the T do meet our requirements for the ladder truck turnaround. But it will be key to keep the snow all the way off the paved area. If we had encroachment, then we're shortening up the legs
Yes.
and the snow in front of the dumpster. But, that'll be, we'll have to work with whoever manages the maintenance of the property.
That'll be the condominium association's
Yeah, the
property.
condominium association will have to do it. And we'll work with them. It's just,
To keep
what
the-
is there meets the requirements.
Yes, and keep the T open.
Yeah.
And not piles of snow.
Mark or Jim, same question having to do with the curb and the snow. placement. Curb at the front and forward becomes Devereaux. Again, we have to keep it off the pavement, obviously.
Yeah, because that curve is the minimum that to get the fire apparatus around.
It looks like you guys took a widening forward so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Gorwood is
Yeah.
shifting, the curve is getting a little less sharp because Gorwood is shifting over a little bit.
Yeah.
So the curve is getting a little less tight and it's getting wider with shoulder.
Yeah, this got wider around the whole thing and it shifted, so.
The whole road's going to 22 feet.
I was gonna say, at the elbow.
Yep.
it's-
Plus
it's-
the
Extra.
the extra.
Extra.
Yeah, it's 22 plus 2 foot shoulder.
Thank you.
And you've spoken with public safety in terms of lines of sight, or I'm just picturing snow mounted on both sides. We're okay going around a corner with that? That's good. Okay. All right.
Is it Tony?
Yes.
Tony, I have a question for you in regards to the sewer line.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the size of the sewer lines?
Yeah.
Do I have that copy here?
But there's a profile page that shows it.
Oh.
The sewer department staff looked at that, so it's needed.
I was gonna say-
8 inch.
I'm
sorry. Can't have side conversations.
It's an 8-inch block.
Okay, and the lines coming from each building to that 8 inch line, it's 4 inch, right? Okay,
They're to the town regulations.
got it. Thank you. Tony, I think I got it.
Yeah, it's this sheet, I'm sorry. Just hold on.
Okay,
This, so, yeah, it's an 8-inch PVC main.
okay. Thank you very much.
That's the same as the rest of them.
That's correct.
I have another question concerning the road. I think the last time we discussed the road, there were several questions, one of which you replied, I think, James, that you're keeping your options open and the possibility of extending it beyond the T as a possibility. If that were to happen, what does it mean for that curve, and if that becomes more of a through lane? A through road, I should say, as opposed to a dead end. So perhaps that's a question for Department of Public Works.
I'm not sure, we're asking for a waiver on the curve there because of the radius, but
Right.
otherwise the road is up to all the town standards. So us or any future applicant could always come and, propose a plan that continues the road. There's no, because it would be up to the town's
Then obviously there'd be.
specifications and there would be a discussion at that point. So,
Dumpster,
yeah, so we don't anticipate right now anything that would result in extending the road further, but one of the considerations we made when we, withdrew the waiver asking for the waiver on the road, the pavement width was, well, then, we'll just put it up to the town's specs without a waiver and then leave it at that. So that at some point in the future, someone, obviously us or someone else could look to extend that road again if it was in compliance with the town standards. So.
And then obviously it would have to be looked at it on its merits at the time. Then based on whatever the traffic was going, everything else, you'd have to know.
I'm just trying to understand.
Understood. Yeah.
Difference between a way, which is a dead end, and a through road.
Yep.
And if this would meet the conditions to become a through road, if I'm putting it correctly. If that's what I was getting.
Well, yeah, I think when we were looking at the waiver, it wasn't up to the town spec, but with the town asking us to bring it up to town spec, we raised the point to the board to consider, which was, okay, you're bringing this up to town spec, so at a future date, it could be extended, whereas if it was under the lower spec, then it would be potentially a problem for somebody to make that through road. So, and again, we brought it up to the spec, we just want to make you aware of the fact that by us bringing it up to the spec, somebody at a future date may propose to extend it.
Good, I just wanted to get all that out in the discussion. Thank you.
Along those lines, though, in looking at the widening of the road, I can't help but notice that the tree box filters sort of end up in the kind of roadway. And the town's looked at that and they're okay with that. I don't know if
You're talking at the very beginning where it intersects with snow.
no, all along with the road. you
Oh,
can
oh,
see
oh,
the tree
oh,
boxes.
oh, I guess.
You're within the 50-foot
They're within the right of way.
not the roadway.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying that.
But still 22 feet between.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah,
20
yeah,
feet
yeah,
of
absolutely.
pavement plus shoulders, then the tree box filters. They're outside of the pavement, outside of the shoulders, but they're within the 50-foot right of way.
Okay, that's understood and.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. So if that road were extended, now there's a good deal of detail on the drawing beyond the T that refers to drainage. Would that be,
Would have to be all, it would have to be all
changed.
looked at in the future, absolutely. Yes.
And that drainage area is one reason why we are requesting the T as opposed to a Y, because the arms of the Y would extend further into that drainage area.
Understood.
It's just, and there's a grade that drops off at the end there, so it's physically easier for the T rather than the Y in terms of intrusion into that drainage area at this stage. So we're
Okay.
trying to avoid
Minimize the impacts on that.
minimize the impact on it, because that
And keep it.
that
flowing.
carries drainage that comes from across the road. from the golf course.
golf course.
Yeah, so we're trying to minimize the impact on that drainage area at this point. But you're right, if that road were ever proposed to be extended in the future, that would have to be dealt with.
That's gonna be a considerable project.
I just,
It's understood.
just because I can't quite see, I know from what we have here, you have the proposed underground infiltration system kind of going off from the L. So with the T, that would cover the infiltration system? How
Yeah.
does that work?
It's underground, it'll be underground. And so it can handle, it can be H20 loaded, so you can have vehicles travel on it. It's basically an underground pipe and infiltration system, completely covered, you won't see it at all. And it basically is a series of pipes perforated, fabric, stone, and it can be cleaned out. There'll be clean outs, so you can clean out the system. So it's just what you normally see above ground in a pond, this is basically doing it underground, out of sight, with pipes that are H20 loaded, capable of being able to be traveled on and everything.
Okay, so within the pavement, there'll be areas to get in to clean it out? Like
There'll be,
manholes?
yeah, there'll be access,
Okay,
yes.
And that drainage is collecting from the tree boxes, which are
filter,
underground.
Yeah.
So the piping is also underground,
Everything's
coming off.
underground, and it all connects to that, and then it infiltrates the stormwater back into the groundwater. Once it's treated with the tree box filters and the other treatment, then it goes into that last system and it infiltrates that into the ground. So we don't increase the runoff. It's a very sandy site that can take the water like crazy, so we're putting it into the ground and to recharge the groundwater after it's been treated, and that's what that system does, totally underground.
How far down in the ground does it go?
It's not way deep. We try to keep it as shallow as possible. So usually they run between 4 and 6 feet deep, depending on the size of the pipes and stuff like that.
And would that interfere in your master plan for that area?
No, that's
Okay.
because we've always expected we're gonna have to have areas that are set aside for
Got it.
stormwater management. So that's just anticipated. And this is a way to do it with minimal footprint, and also, aesthetically, we like this because it's underground, not a big,
Sure.
retention
Sure.
pond and,
Yeah.
sitting out there in the open.
Yeah, it's not gonna have, there won't be standing water like visible in a pond. It's underground, and because it's infiltration, there will be standing water inside there until it soaks into the ground.
Yep.
So if it was an above ground pond, it would be that way until it, so this is a nice system that makes everything clean. You can't see it, and it's easy to take care of.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Rich?
But you might imagine that, especially James and Michael, the select board and the planning board, the major concern, at least that I've heard, has been what's gonna happen to Nelson's Path. You guys are locals in a sense, right? So would you go on record and just outline what your plans are for Nelson's Path? So everyone.
Well, we've relocated it at this point, we because of the project that's underway now, impeded on that footprint. And so I'm not sure, I have to look again to see if this, I don't know if this actually impacts the relocated path, but if it does, we'll look to relocate it again. We might have to move it to the other side of that drainage area. But if it's at all possible to keep the path in place there, we will try to do so. I think, we worked with the resort and in terms of that, I think they did a good job of relocating it, and if we need to reroute it again, but we tried to stay, far off the end of the planned area here when we relocated it. So we'll go out there and take another look and see what we can do.
There's a cross-country trail there.
Yeah, that's
A little
further
further
out.
further
I
further
don't think
down
we're
the
gonna
road.
come close to impacting that. But yeah, there is that cross-country trail there that sort of parallels Nelson's Path a
Nelson's
little
Path,
bit.
and that would be the hope, the plan.
Yeah.
Use that one.
Yeah. And we're mindful of the fact that we have to, we want to preserve cross-country. There's going to have to be some trails that go out of the center of town accessible via, cross-country skiing, because otherwise, we have the one over by the pond, we have this one here, because we want to continue to provide routes for cross-country and other trail access out of the center of town.
Indeed, because especially Nelson's path as a footpath, really, although I think it was mostly meant to be a bike path, but it was shared. And that really was the direct way between the north end of town and town square, otherwise you're walking.
All the way
You're
around
walking
here.
around one way or the other. Thank you.
Now the board's been full of questions. Any member of the public want to speak or ask questions? Yes. Can you
Yeah,
just
hi.
state your name and
My name is Jim DeRocher.
can,
I'm general manager of the Black Bear
okay,
Lodge.
just gonna pause you. Is everyone in Zoom land here okay? Or do we need, good? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I represent 96 land abutting owners of Black Bear. And we have concerns regarding environmental impact of the current development and any future disturbances of grounds. We're currently facing an infestation of mice from potentially from the current construction site as it impacted the ground. And this problem never happened before, and it started when the construction started. The mice has infested the building. They're deer mice. We know they came from the outside. It has affected our business, impacted our reputation, and has affected the owners that live there, their current lifestyle. So it's important to us, any future development or disturbances of the ground, this gets addressed because it is adversely affecting our business. And the current construction is raising havoc with us right now. So we're trying to do our best to mitigate the problem. We learned this from our pest control company. They're the ones that state that it probably came from the construction site. The construction site was an established ecosystem for years. And it's one of those things that happens when construction starts in your neighborhood.
Thank you.
What does your pest control company say you can do about that?
Well, we're going through mitigation process. It's an arduous process. We have to look for any ingress area that the mice can come into the building. We have to go through all the units, look through for any holes in units from hot water tanks that might pipe in. And so it's an old building. We didn't anticipate this problem, never had the problem before. It's a long, arduous process. We can certainly take care of it. We're sealing the building up. Our problem is our reputation is taking a hit. We have posts online. We have guests that weren't happy. We have refunds. We have future guests that won't come back. We have owners that live there that had mice in their units, and their lifestyle has been disturbed by this process. So it's a long process to take care of, but we're concerned that any future land disturbances will just add to the problem. We would love to see some sort of process, maybe at the construction sites that they put mice traps down and things like that. But I'm new to this process, so really don't know what they could do or what we need to do to build back our reputation and make our homeowners happy again, and to continue to improve our business.
I have to admit, I don't think that's something that's come before this board before. But it's, yeah, I can understand the concern.
Well, it's a viable concern.
Yep.
It's typical to construction. And being in the, basically the White Mountains in the woods, had a lot of small woodland creatures that were able to thrive. And then their home got disturbed, and the nesting areas got disturbed, and where do you think they're gonna go? The closest, nearest, warmest place. And we've been affected.
I guess I'd throw out a question to Tyrell. Have you guys ever run into that on other projects? And if so, what were the mitigating actions that could be taken on your end? Because I mean, obviously a valid concern, on the Black Bear side, and what could, again, mitigate that in the future. Have you ever run into that before?
No, this is the first you're hearing of it, in any case, and certainly the first we're hearing of it in this case, but we'll certainly talk to the contractor, the builder who's doing the construction, and see if there's something that they can do to help mitigate anything that's gonna stir up the wildlife and send them, doing that. But it's a new issue I haven't heard of before now, so I couldn't say specifically what those mitigations might be. But we'll certainly talk to the builder and see what's going on and what they've observed.
I have a comment for you that might help, might not. But I live right across the street. And just recently, we've had a family of Shropshire hawks that have come back. They love mice.
I don't think they're gonna fly into room 232. But chase them out.
Well, I'm sure they're running around your building outside somewhere. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
They're also
nature has a way
inside
of
the
helping out. So
And our
that,
problem is not outside the building, our problem is inside.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Madam Chair, can I ask a
Yes,
question?
yes.
Would you consider asking our land planner what power the board would have in the matter?
Yes, absolutely. Tara, have you heard of this type of issue before? And is there anything that we can do?
I haven't run into it before either. And I'm wondering if it really is a planning board authority or responsibility as opposed to something between landowners.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you. Well, I guess the good thing is now you've all met each other. And, hopefully there can be some communications.
Well,
Top of the issue.
make a suggestion after this meeting, that you Google it.
Okay.
It's.
I'm not
In
questioning,
construction.
right, no, I'm not questioning
Okay,
that
that's fine.
there's,
All right.
my degrees in
Thank you.
zoology, I do understand wildlife flow, but I'm just not sure what this board can do about it. But I think it's great that you guys now have been introduced, and hopefully there can be some communications, and I'm sure if there's a way that the town can help in mitigating, then we would look into doing so. But thank you for bringing that. Any other comments, questions? Cindy, if you could just state your name.
Cindy Picos.
Can everyone hear okay?
I have a question for them. Could you go over your underground retention ponds that you're building for filtration for the runoff?
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for the layout of the room. I'm sure it's difficult for those seated to see, so, yeah.
So the stormwater gets collected in tree box filters and carried underground, and then there's a system that's in here that's an underground infiltration system, a pipe network that this water will flow into. And then the treated water is cleaned by the get here, and then this allows it to infiltrate into the ground underground area.
Now, does it take into consideration the 100-year storm should it come through, which is very normally?
We have to analyze the whole gamut of storms. Yeah,
Okay.
from the 1 all the way to the 100. And so all those are submitted to AOP, because they look at this handling of the treatment of stormwater. So that they're actually reviewing all the first. And so they review all our stormwater counts for all those storms, and we have to show that we're not gonna blow up this system.
Now, the next question I have is that I'm sure sediment is going to filter through and get into it. And
whose job is it going to be to make sure that that filtration is running properly?
So the condo association will have to have a maintenance contract, and what they do is, it's actually a fairly simple system to maintain. They have a company come in with a jetpack, and basically they lower the thing and jet the pipes out and suck the stuff out. It's very straightforward. Usually we'll have a clean out manholes on the end and basically just run the system down through and jet it out. So they'd have to have a contract where someone would come in, inspect it periodically. And that, by the way, is also established in the alteration of terrain. Sorry, I should be addressing the board. So it's also, that is in the alteration of terrain. They want to see maintenance and management. They require a schedule and how it's going to be done. So that's all part of the package.
So the final question, will that also be included in your condominium document?
It has to be,
Okay.
yes.
It's specifically, the condo association is responsible for the maintenance, upkeep of the road, the plowing of the road, the maintenance of the stormwater management system. That's all specifically obligated in the condominium bylaws.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the public, either here or in Zoom? I can't quite see if there's anyone.
I have a question. I'm in
Yeah.
Zoom. Jenny Lucas.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. This is mainly for the board, I think, but Terrell can certainly chime in. I am assuming that any land that isn't already cleared will be clear cut for this project. And I'm wondering if the board is comfortable that with that concept, because there are a lot of references, while there are no bans against clear cutting in any of our regulations that I can find, there are so many references to protecting the natural and scenic beauty of the town and adequate landscaping so that nothing is offensive to neighbors or passersby, to maintaining large trees, attractive tree stands in natural areas, and on and on and on. And I just feel like we're slowly losing a lot of that with some of the more recent developments. I think some of the older developments that line Valley Road, you can hardly see some of them. They're through the trees, but they're in your face. And I feel like, with Green Peak and also with the Golden Heights, I feel like they're just in your face. And there's not much attention being paid to screening or making it naturally pretty. And I just wondered if the board had any comments on that, or Terrell.
We absolutely appreciate that point of view. Where this is located in C1 is meant to be a more commercially dense area.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it does mean cutting down a lot of the existing vegetation. However, perhaps Tyrell will go through the landscape plan to know what will be put back after. So there's a better understanding of how it will end up looking.
The landscape plan is similar to what the landscape plan for the building that's there now, the Green Peak building that's there now. So those types of decorative trees and things are in the land. I don't know the details of them very good. Few types, but we can view those landscape plans and see the different kinds of vegetation and foliage that's planned to be put in place. And it was based on that original plan that was done for Green Peak when the first building was built. To the overall comment, yes, I understand the concern, but as you pointed out, as the chair pointed out, that this is commercially zoned. The plan has always been for significant development in this zone, going back, when the Waterville company owned it, they had, a number of plan revisions over time, conceptual plans that basically filled in all of this. Our conceptual plan does fill in quite a bit of this space, which would require most of the existing trees to be cut down at some point. We have a conceptual plan that contemplates commercial and hotel construction in this space. We tried to preserve some open space, what we call the village green, in our conceptual plan. So it's not entirely infill. We don't think that would be a good result. We want to have that open space, community space in the middle. We've talked with this planning board about coming up with that pedestrian core where we have that all pedestrian and bicycle only center for this area. but you are correct, this is commercial space. Over time, I think the plan that we envision does result in taking down much of what's existing there. I will point out, we're surrounded by 40,000 acres of national forest, and, you know, there is a lot of opportunity to be out in the wild in those areas. Obviously, as the operator of the resort year round, we want people to enjoy the outdoors and nature as part of their visit here. But in this particular instance, this space here is, over time, we expect it to be fully developed out.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, it's Mike Capel. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
At one point, the surveyors and so on indicated that you were going to tie the new tree boxes into our current tree box system in Green Peak 1, or whatever you want to call Building B. I'm assuming that's still the case. Then there's basically some of the things you're saying would also mean we're going to have to amend our association agreement, which I think is going to be a separate association agreement, I think. Is that true?
So the way it's structured is each individual building will be a association. So the existing Green Peak Association that the Capels are part of is an association. There are already recorded 3 more associations for the buildings that are under construction. There will be 4 more sub-associations. All of those are under a master association. And we've discussed with the existing Green Peak Association, they've agreed to become part of that master association. And it's the master association that will be responsible for the maintenance of the road and the stormwater infrastructure. So it does call for tying this in, because that makes the most sense to have all of this as one integrated system in terms of stormwater management. So I don't know that the existing association needs to be amended so much as it needs to agree to become part of the master association. We've had those conversations with the existing association in terms of that, to try to make sure everyone's on the same page. So
Right, but we haven't seen those documents.
the master association, I'll check on the status of the master association documents, but those should be, I believe those should be available at this point for review. And but that is something we've been discussing since the start of this project, is that structure and that tying them together will make for better stormwater management for the whole area.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is that we would like to have the opportunity, obviously, to do a detailed review and perhaps have our council review those documents.
Yes.
I mean, that would only make sense.
So
Okay.
that would be available. Thank you. Oh, Cindy. hi.
And the other thing is that I did mention, I sent an email to a couple of people. We are concerned about, and as I said, about snow management there, but I understand what you're saying, but I guess there's nothing else we can do about it. So,
Thank you, Mike. Cindy?
I have a question for listeners. Why are you doing individual condo docs for each group of buildings instead of one master? For all?
It has to do with the timing of the construction of the units. If we create a single association with all the units in, it's more complicated. For example, these 3 buildings have already been approved, so those associations have been established, but it has to do with the timing. As units are sold under state law, you have to have the association established, but they can't sell the units until they've reached a certain level of progress. So for example, the building that's being framed out now, those units can go under contract, but you have to have an association for that. But you can't, so it has to do more with the timing of the sales and when you are allowed to put something under a specific contract and that, as opposed to anything else. And so that's why there's a master association that all these associations are part of. It's really the master association that everyone here will be part of that will that will govern the whole.
And who in that master association, who is going to be the governor of that master?
The
association?
homeowners will have a board of that, so everyone, all 24 of these units will be members of that association, and they will, the homeowners there will vote for their own condo board, like any other homeowners association.
And the other benefit here is that the three owners in a particular building, if there's something that has to be done for that particular building, those homeowners would participate in that. Whereas the general infrastructure in terms of the roads and the stormwater system is across all of the buildings. And so those responsibilities fall under the master.
Thank you.
I just wanted to review the lighting plan a little bit. We have the smaller, I don't know if you have it in a larger format for the rest of the group. I think it's separate, Rich, from the main one. It should be on the table over there.
No, I just share. Oh, okay. It's still one of these, so it's one of these, right?
So I just wanted to make sure that I understood it correctly. All of the lighting will either be sconces attached to the building or the smaller pedestrian height lighting, is that correct?
Yes, and this is the same exact lighting plan that we had for the prior three buildings. So
Okay,
we used the same firm that came up with the lighting that you saw for the last building. And it's the same scheme where the type of lights and where they are positioned is in line with what we approved last.
okay, so with the, kind of greater density of residences and people walking along the street, presumably in dark, you're not worried about any street lighting being needed or anything like that?
I don't know. I
That
know they
issue
look at
hasn't
those-
been raised by
hasn't been
to
raised.
us by public safety in terms of the need for street lighting.
Okay,
But I mean, it's not much. Yeah.
okay, just wanted to make sure I
No,
wasn't
no, fair
missing
enough.
part of that aspect.
And again, as I think the town knows, trying to keep that ambient light down to a minimum, we're trying to, use the sconces that are rained down, use the pedestrian lighting in and around these buildings to try to keep that excess light minimized.
Okay,
But there are no sidewalks, it's
No
sidewalk.
No, there are no sidewalks on this.
It's not a throughway in any way. for
Correct.
pedestrian or a vehicle.
Correct.
That's correct. Private road.
I have a-
In every sense of the word.
I have a question for Madam Chair.
okay.
Do we know if this is, our aspirations to be, black sky,
yeah.
dark sky compliant someday, which, is a ways off. But do we know if this is compliant with what we reviewed last year as a part of what we need to do?
That's part of it specified that they are dark sky compliant fixtures.
Okay, I did
So-
not see that.
It's okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's hard with the different papers coming flying at different points to review it all. And as far as signage, is there going to be any type of entryway signage for the
Same signage, the signage that we had in the previous plan, that same sign is going to be utilized for this. That's why we had previously referred to this as the Village Green site, but we've altered the name here to Green Peak, you know.
Okay.
So it's just one sign. It's
So
not a
it's just one,
confusing
okay.
sign. So the planned Green Peak condominium sign that was part of the previous plan will address these
Cover
as
it
well,
all.
because it's right at the
Okay.
entrance to Gorwood. So
Right.
instead of for the 4 buildings, it's for the 8 buildings, and there'll be no confusion about, that's why we changed the naming to keep it all as Green Peak. So anyone looking for Green Peak will go on to Gorwood and Never Road, and there's all the Green Peak items.
Okay.
I like Village Green better. I like the name.
Well,
I think you opened a can of worms. Ken.
Yes. All in favor, John?
Just looking for a smile, that's all.
You got it. You got it.
all right.
We'll
By the way,
consider, we'll
I don't-
consider that for the next one.
I don't disagree, but it was a question of, you know, is it
Multi-sided confusion from.
Understood.
avoiding confusion. So
Yes,
Got it.
understood.
We'll try to find something else to call Village Green.
Thank you.
Tara, would you mind chiming in on anything that you've seen with this application that we should be aware of or considering?
So I addressed some things in the draft notice that I sent you. I don't know if you want to get into that yet. The only additional thing is, I'd like to see the comment letter from DES on the alteration of terrain and any changes made to the drainage plan and stormwater report, because I did review those, but I haven't seen DES comments.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, part of the notes, I believe, entailed the parking, which, especially for the middle units.
Right.
So as James noted earlier, you know, in reflecting Tara's comments about the parking, would move the unit slightly back to be able to ensure that there's meet the proper spacing requirements.
Including the setback from the right of way.
Right.
Right, so we have the 5-foot setback. And then as far as, and I apologize, perhaps I'm just missing it, but for the middle unit, there will be a garage.
Yes.
Yes.
And the other parking space, is that blocking the garage or that's
No,
offset?
it's offset. It's offset.
Okay.
So we have an offset space to meet that parking requirement.
Okay,
Yeah.
so every unit, sorry, go ahead.
The last revision of the plans addressed that and showed a parking space outside the garage that doesn't block the garage and is not in the right of way. And meets the 5-foot setback.
Excellent.
I have a question in its regard to egress. My observation, I noticed that you, in the new buildings, you're putting in windows in that basement area.
Those will be actually walkouts because of the grade change.
So you
going
have,
down towards what we call the Village Green.
yep,
There will actually be able to walk out from as opposed to the bulkheads that are in the buildings that are going in.
oh, so you do have bulkheads going in this building.
No, not these ones.
The buildings that are under construction have bulkheads as their egress from the basement, their secondary egress from the basement. Because of the grade change from where these houses are going down to the Village Green, you'll actually be able to be a walkout from the basement of these units that were.
Oh, I see.
considered today.
So they'll actually be able to walk out onto the Village Green from
Got it.
these
Yeah.
units.
Oh, I see. And the existing one right now that's actually being built, there's windows in that.
With a bulkhead,
Window with a
bulkhead
bulkhead.
egress.
All right, because the building B does not. Am I correct on
The
that?
existing building.
Yes,
My understanding is that when that was built, that was not a code requirement,
okay,
but that code requirement came in sometime in the last 10 years. So that's why the buildings that you've already approved have that bulkhead egress.
okay,
If we didn't have the walkouts for these buildings, if we didn't have the grade change that allowed for the walkout of this building, we would have to put in those bulkhead exits.
I like that, thank you.
Yes, Alan.
Does the master condo plan prohibit on-street parking?
I don't know the answer to that. Off the top of my head.
I guess my question
I
is,
don't
should
know.
it?
Is that a typical prohibition
In town.
condo association documents in
The
town?
answer would lie with
Not
DES,
supposed to have garage.
what is allowed.
Oh,
Yeah. Dave,
It's considered a way, so it falls under the town ordinance.
okay, so no
No, no.
on-street parking.
no one's-
Yeah,
Correct.
Notes that there's no on-street parking.
Correct.
Thank you for clarifying that. Just looking through, Tara had kind of sent out an initial sort of draft of summarizing things. And there was a question that she had for Mark. I guess you made a comment about correcting or relocating the bump out into the road right away from the existing Green Peak condos and making it consistent with the rest of the right of way lines. Has that been clarified?
That would be between condo associations.
Okay. Okay.
It's just, I couldn't see that it was different, Mark.
Okay, and that's fine. It was just, I was just asking the question because it had been discussed.
It might be my eyesight, though. I can't swear to it. I just couldn't see it.
Are you leaving it, James, the way it is?
Well, right now, it's the way it is on the plan, because it would require the existing association to agree to a lot line adjustment. So there's an existing, that association, provided the right of way across their property.
Right.
But the comment from Tara was to, to actually, see that, but that would require the existing Green Peak Association to agree to a lot line adjustment. We haven't specifically had that conversation at this point, but we're certainly happy to talk to them and to the town about how to do that if that's required. We can't impose that on them. They would have to agree to adjust their lot line to do that.
Right. This is Mike. My suggestion is our annual meeting for Building B is sometime in May,
14.
May 14th. I would suggest that it'd be really good if you could have all that information to us so that we could vote to agree to that or disagree, but my gut tells me we would agree to that. But to solve everything, it would be good if we did it at that meeting.
Send it to Deb Bell.
Okay.
So Wendy, I misunderstood Mark's comment. I had asked the applicant to, talk with Green Peak One folks to at least explore doing a lot line adjustment, which it sounds like they've done. I was reading Mark's comment about bump out. I usually think of bump outs as the physical bump out into the right of way, like the grass or curb. So it sounds like the applicant's done what we've asked on that.
Okay, great. Oh, and a housekeeping thing, I apologize. Alicia had asked me to mention this and I forgot. As folks in the public are here, before you leave, if you could put your name on our little sign-in sheet on the table by the window there. I know Margaret was here and Margaret, but anyone else, if you could just make sure to sign it. Sorry, forgot. It seems like most of the other items on here seem to be pretty straightforward.
Wendy,
Yes.
Wendy, you just might want to close the public hearing before you start talking about a decision. Just
Oh,
to
sure.
it can't be, but
No, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else that would
Okay.
prompt further discussion.
Yeah. And the board can continue having discussion for months after you close the public hearing. The public hearings for the.
Love to hear that.
Sometimes boards think that that's the end of all the discussion. It's just the end of the public input.
Yes. All right. Do we have any additional public comment? Questions? Anyone in Zoom land? No, we're all public good? All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and be able to continue our deliberations.
Wendy, I suppose I'm actually, it's Mike Capella, I suppose I'm actually part of the public.
You are part of the public, yes.
So with all love and respect to everyone, I think you guys can handle whatever else is left, and this is fading in and out anyway. So, thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mike.
I move to close the public hearing.
Yeah, I just closed. the public
Oh, you did close it?
Yeah.
I thought we had to do it. motion.
No. I just-
Okay.
just-
Sorry.
One of the few things I can just do executive.
Need to get her a gavel, so it's obvious.
Yeah.
That's all I need. The gavel, have a weapon. All right. So for the board, anything that's unclear that we need to review further? I think we've hit on a lot of the major points.
Yeah.
The road, the drainage, lighting, signage, landscaping. Any other issues we have?
Just so the board's aware, because they don't see, you guys don't see all the emails, the last issue that was kind of hanging out there for both Mark's team and I was addressing the turnaround in a way that met the fire chief's requirements, and we got that revision last night. So as of last night, I think all our concerns have been addressed.
Right, and that's the T shape that we don't see in front of us here, but is on the plan, yeah.
Right.
Um, No further deliberations, questions? All right, so the, yeah,
Just for clarification, one more time on the egress, you said the back of the building at grade will have a walkout right there? You said?
Yeah, so the grade, right at road grade, when you come into these buildings, things actually go down slope there towards the center of town. And so you may know some of the fill that's being taken out of the buildings that are
Yes.
construction is being put on that side of the road. It's to bring that, where these units will be built up to that road grade, so the
Okay.
driveways don't go down. And by raising that up, it results in the back, out back of the unit, the grade will, be out back.
full
and so
story.
that
Yep.
You'll go in the house, from street level, and then when you go down into the basement will be walking out the back.
Got it.
At the back grade, which is lower than the street grade.
do you have an architectural rendering of that?
Yes.
Don't have an updated architectural.
We have the
Okay.
grading plan in here, which shows the grading, but I don't.
Okay,
On one of the last set of drawings, there at the back of the buildings, there's what looks like brickwork. That's right. That's the walkway.
right. Yeah, I was just
So
looking
it's
at
there
the
now.
image of the
So what this depicts here is the grade drops off in the back.
In between all the
like
buildings,
8
you'll see
feet
the,
between all the buildings, so you're gonna expose a whole, basically the basement.
Oh,
You can have doors and windows like at regular grade
yep,
in the basement level. So you'll be on, when you approach the building or up at the first floor, then when you go through the building and down, you actually straight walk out the back.
yep,
It's not gonna be stairs going up or anything like that, straight out.
okay.
nice.
so if you're really interested in the village green, you can buy a unit and walk right out onto the village green.
Sure.
All right. So just to review some of the draft of Tara's notes. We have the 2 waivers that you're looking at for the T turnaround as opposed to the cul-de-sac. And the centerline curve radii. I know you said it's a little bit wider and gentler in the,
Yeah.
in the revised, but it's still,
It's still.
a bit tighter.
Right up to the.
Yeah.
Ordinance.
But again, Mark, Public Works has looked at that, right, and the turn is fine.
Yeah.
Oh, is Dave still there? Oh, sorry, Dave, you are still there. So you've looked at the turn and everything's fine with the, both the curve and the T?
Yep, we looked at it and everything looks fine.
Excellent.
It's to the spec, so.
Okay. And that's actually one of the conditions precedent that Tara had suggested, that the Director of Public Works will approve the proposed T turnaround, and also dumpster enclosure. At the, yeah. Any changes to the language for the condominium documents and deeds previously approved by town council would be approved by town council, including identifying roles and responsibilities, mechanisms for routine and road maintenance and emergency repairs, as well as the stormwater system inspection and maintenance, emergency repairs, drainage easement, and identification of transfer of responsibility from applicant to homeowners association. We've discussed that. Of course, all fees paid. Final improved plan set provided a paper PDF with correct revision date. Final Mylar copies. And the subdivider improvement agreement approved by town manager. So all those conditions precedent, I think, are pretty straightforward and usual. And then she suggested the following items before any building permits are issued. The engineer's estimate for road improvements, water and sewer and drainage be submitted, and performance guarantee for same in a form acceptable to the town manager. Cash deposit provided to the town to be put into escrow for inspection fees, and provide documentation of compliance with NHRSA 356B. Again, I think pretty straightforward.
And I just, while you were on the fly, I would add alteration of terrain permit from DES, because I hadn't realized they didn't have that yet.
Absolutely. Yep. And then condition subsequent, language approved by town council may not be changed without the approval of town council, including condominium document and deed language, identifying roles and responsibilities, mechanisms for routine road maintenance and emergency repairs, stormwater system inspection, maintenance and emergency repairs, drainage easement and identification of transfer of responsibility. Provide as-built plan certified by a licensed engineer for road, water, sewer, stormwater improvements. Road, water, sewer, and stormwater improvements as shown on the approved plan shall be completed within 2 years from the date the final plat is recorded, unless extended by the planning board. The approved inspection and maintenance plan for the stormwater facilities must be adhered to and performance documented. Any changes to the plan must be recommended by a licensed engineer and approved by the select board or designee. Building footprint and associated improvements as necessary may vary by up to 10% without planning board approval. And lighting and signage will be in compliance with the zoning ordinance. Again, I think. Sorry. Go
And
ahead.
while I was listening to the discussion, I added the paved area and shoulders of the road and turnaround shall be kept clear of snow at all times.
Yes.
And are you going to return to the wording of the second waiver?
Sorry. Yes, let me just.
That's probably the one condition that the board will want to discuss.
Second waiver, the centerline curve radii contained in the town of Waterville Valley subdivision regulations to serve the currently existing and proposed units only. Oh, sorry, you're right. So that, yeah, going back to the waivers, not only the curve radii is less than, but also that it would serve the currently existing and proposed units only, a maximum of 24 dwelling units. This waiver shall not apply to any additional development utilizing Gorewood Way or Devereux Way. Additional development access through the connectors or extensions will require reconstruction of the Gorewood Devereux curve to comply with the current regulations. I don't know how the board feels about that stipulation, or if that's something that developer would be amenable to.
It's something that both Mark and I are recommending the board consider, because it's a substantial decrease from the requirement.
I think that was the basis of my fourthly asked question that I was trying to get at.
Okay.
I think, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's certainly at the board's discretion, so we don't have any objection.
Okay. And good. The board feels that's an appropriate request.
Yeah, that's a condition.
Yep.
For clarification on Grovewood and Devereaux, the width of the road is going to be 50 feet?
Right of way 50 feet, pavement 22 feet, shoulders 2 feet on. either side.
And the turnaround, I want to call it a hammerhead, the T. What is the width of that also? That, I don't see it here on mine.
Yeah,
It's whatever the town
What
requires.
the town requires.
But I don't know if it's, the turnaround is required, I don't know
I
if
think
the
it was
outlet
measured.
turnaround needs to be 22 feet wide.
Shows 20 feet, and 48.
20 feet.
I got
Okay.
20 feet plus shoulders.
Okay, thank you.
They've drawn it to the specifications that, that the town provided.
Okay. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Anything that Tyrell Group has?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Bill?
There's only one other comment that I've received from others, general. There's only so much commercial land left.
Yes.
To what extent do you plan to build more residential in C1?
Our current conceptual plan has a few additional residential units. It envisions some down by the pond, towards the area sort of between the ice arena and up towards the road in that area. And then possibly some in a mixed-use building that is on the side of the west side of Village Green along the Black Bear parking lots. So there's envisioned a mixed-use building there where the first floor would be retail or commercial space of some sort, and then up the upper floors might be sort of a smaller flat type condominium units. That's the extent of any other residential we have planned.
That was on the diagram you gave us.
Yeah, that's on our
The
conceptual.
conceptual
plan.
plan where you see the village street with the hotels and everything.
The other major portions of the development are more lodging based, hotel based.
I've got a question too, along those lines. I know that when Waterville Company was doing their conceptual design, Bill Cantlin, came in and did a review of that for us. And I know that there's obviously, changes to what that was. What do you think a good timing for something that's enough to just keep us informed of how these pieces are fitting in, like the diagram that was in the wigwag most recently? Like, when would you guys be able or willing to come in and walk us through a plan?
Well, we've done that. We were here, I don't know how long ago, but we did walk
I
through
would-
the conceptual.
I missed that,
board at
maybe.
one point.
Okay, sorry.
That was
So
the
that
diagram.
existing conceptual that's still our conceptual, where we have a minor variation here in that what we're proposing today is, garage units instead of. The
The parking lot
conceptual
units.
showed some units without garages and
Exactly.
common parking, but we revised that slightly, but as of now, we're still proceeding along the lines of that conceptual plan. We don't have any deviations from that at this stage.
Okay, and I apologize, I missed
No,
that
no,
meeting.
It's totally okay. I'm sure there are people watching.
And if you go back and you look at it, if you have questions, certainly feel free to
Yeah.
reach out to us. We'd be happy to address them.
Okay,
But as James indicated, we're still currently focused on that conceptual plan with the idea of that village green and that walkable core being the key driver of the plan.
awesome, thank you.
No, I just to the logic point, if you do at some point deviate
Yep. Oh, yeah.
of some significance,
Yes.
it would be nice to give us a
Of
heads
course.
up. I mean, so we can know where you guys.
Well, we prefer to do that, we prefer to do that and
Right.
identify complications and concerns that you
Exactly.
have before we show up with engineering plans and.
Right, that was my, that's right.
Absolutely.
Nancy, did you have any questions from Zoom in, or Bill?
I didn't have any additional questions.
Okay. Oh, Bill, you're muted. Oh, still muted.
Bill, you're still muted.
Can you hear?
Yes, yeah, that's good.
Oh.
No.
I think you guys are.
You're
playing-
still muted, Bill.
Like, you unmute.
Try it one more time.
We can't unmute him, we can just ask him.
Oh, okay.
You might have double clicked or something.
Yeah.
Try it one more time, Bill.
Well, you should,
Bill-
it shows me as unmuted.
Yeah, you're good now. Don't touch
You're good now.
You're good.
Okay. I'm concerned about the comment of the Black Bear Lodge that, you know, the mice. So if that situation it can persist, what can be done? You know, I don't consider that any different than a neighbor complaining about water infiltrating his property, you know, as a result of construction.
Sure, yeah. You folks have any?
I don't have anything I can offer right now, because I haven't
Yeah.
encountered this, and I think.
It's unfortunate that this is the first that you've heard of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I have, no one's contacted us before now to mention that it's a problem.
Yeah.
Offhandedly, I know we've had mice issues in town square here as well.
Yes.
So, that's, you know, it's unfortunate, obviously, we don't want to, a project to be potentially impacting people, and if that's the source of it, like I said, we'll certainly talk to the builder and see if they've encountered this and if there's any mitigation that they can do.
Okay.
I just don't know enough about the situation to say that there's
Right.
anything that can be done or should be done that would affect that.
I guess it would be nice to know you make a good faith effort to
Yeah.
Oh, no,
research it.
and we'll have a
um,
conversation
yeah.
and certainly try to make sure that we can do what can be done, but, you know, certainly, again, if our contractors, you know, the people doing the site work and our contractors building the vertical, we'll have a conversation with them to see if they've encountered this and what can be done to try to.
More owls and more hawks.
Yeah. Have a couple of construction cats.
Clear the building.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. If there isn't anything further, it seems like all of the concerns, the conditions, the waivers are all amenable. Seem to have a pretty clear path forward. If anyone would care to make a motion at this time?
Okay, Wendy. I move that,
He pointed, not me.
well, John points to me and says,
Wendy made me do it.
yes, right. I move that the board approve this plan as amended by conditions.
And I'll second that. Oh,
Yeah, precedent.
Precedent.
Precedent and subsequent.
Precedent and subsequent,
I
yes.
think that's the language.
There you go. Include that phrase, yes.
Do we have that language correct, Tara?
Probably good enough. Maybe mention the waivers too.
To include the waivers.
That's why I said that, subject to the amendments and conditions.
Well, I'd specify the waivers and conditions.
Okay. Okay, subject to waivers and conditions.
That's good.
Precedent and subsequent.
Do you think we could restate that as one whole thing?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Want to get it right in the
I want to
minutes,
get it right
right?
in minutes, so here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
You're on, Bill.
Well, yeah. What a place to be in. Yes. All right. I move that this board approve the plan, subject to waivers and conditions that represent
Precedent,
amendments precedent and subsequent.
Thank you, Bill.
Well done.
Now I'll second
Okay.
At least somebody.
All right. So, all those in favor, Wendy Rathgeber, aye.
John Racine, aye.
Rob Wilson, I.
Alan Bergo, I.
Bill Spence, aye.
Rich Rita, aye.
Nancy Knight, aye.
All righty, great. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Hope everything goes well.
We're trying.
Yeah, so far, so good on the other ones. Moving along. Appreciate you.
And Alicia, as far as the, sorry. As far as the conditions, precedent, subsequent, Tara's gonna go through and just.
She said she was sending me her revised.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. Great.
Madam Chair.
Absolutely. About 5 minutes. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, 5? Okay, take 5. Alicia, can you stop recording during the 5 minutes?
Rob, you need a picture of the 10-year master plan that they have.
Yeah, do you have that?
August 2.
We got. Yeah, so it's the one that they, because they did revise Cantlin's a little bit, I think.
I have actually
Okay,
a
cool.
picture of.
Yeah, you can email it.
Or
text-
I'm gonna
text
drop
it.
it off to you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I've been passing it around occasionally. It's in a little plastic.
Yeah, I know, it- they do guard that intellectual
But
property.
it's an 8x10, but I could, my wife and I do a bunch of walks near here, so I'll try those.
Yeah, we're around all the time, you know, lately, because we're doing all this construction. So we have to like be there, so somebody will always be there.
Okay. I'll do that.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because when you talk about these things in isolation, you know what I mean? I don't think we can make as good a decision as possible if everything was being isolated.
Right.
Also, when COVID happens, they shut down all the restaurants.
Thank you.
Unmuted, so.
All right, Nancy and Tara, we are back. I assume you guys are back as well. So we can move on to looking at the master plan. Our main goals today were to look at what Tara has already revised for chapter 5 and 6.
This has Tara's.
And
It's if you don't have it.
sorry, just if there's background noise. you can't
Sorry.
hear me, it's okay. So we have, Tara had also worked on an introduction, primarily to help clarify the terms of village and town. So Tara, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't screen share today. Do you want to start with the introduction and just kind of let people chime in? I was trying here to clarify the different terms that have come up during the process, like when does town mean the geographic area? When does it mean the municipal government? What is the village and the village core? And then I, of course, did a search of the document to try to catch all the places those are used. Somebody will need to do one last careful read toward the end of the process. And I tried to do some maps I adjusted the maps that I had initially included to show that one is a blow up, so more clearly that one is a blow up of the other. And then I added maps for the village and village core. So looking for comments on how that works and whether we can make it even better.
All right, so yeah, this is just for the very beginning. It's not tied into chapters 5 and 6.
Oh, okay.
But it just clarifies. And did everyone get a
Chapter one.
chance to review
Yeah.
that, this introduction?
1.1, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good.
I thought it was really good. Did anyone
Yeah.
have any comments? It was definitely helpful to have that clarification, I think.
Mm.
Town, village.
Okay, one comment,
Yes,
nitpick,
yeah,
but I don't think it's good form to have parentheses back to back. So there's a
Where-
line where it says less than 1 square mile. I would just say comma 471 acres and then the parentheses.
okay. All right. Any other thoughts on this introduction?
I would simply say it's striking that I mentioned this to Tara, and maybe it was an email, I think, that the town is 64.4 square miles and that 471 acres we live in is less than a square mile of that.
It is.
To keep it in perspective, it never just dawned on me that was,
No, it's a very valid point.
Yeah,
yeah, so.
Nobody in town knows this.
And you understand, I mean, no one likes to see development, and especially as areas that have been that way for decades.
mhm,
But that is the reality, and those are that's the larger context.
right.
Mm.
I know that that comment keeps coming up. But there isn't anything in the statute that would prohibit or allow the board to do anything about cutting down trees.
Right, I mean, we're encouraged to try to preserve the older stands if where possible, but yeah.
The only thing that anybody who doesn't like it can do is buy the land.
Yeah, and I think there were also, one of the comments that was made was that you can't see the older developments, et cetera. I think from the board's perspective, construction is messy.
Yeah,
And what it looks like today or what it looks like the day after the construction ends is not what it's gonna look like in 10 years or 20 years.
well,
I
same
mean,
with
it's
all
gonna
the
fill in.
houses and yeah.
It's gonna become part of the landscape, it's gonna settle. And so, you know, you do your best with the landscape plan and
Let it grow up.
let it grow up.
I think, I mean, even more than that, there should be a different expectation of what landscaping looks like in the village core and even in VC versus what it looks like in the LDR.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, but as far as, so the 1.1, we're all happy with? Awesome. Thank you, Tara. That was great. Oh, Nancy, I didn't double check with you out there. You all good with 1.1?
You know, the only thing that threw me was, it looks like the only thing that distinguishes, that's, okay. The only thing that's critical in the capitalization versus not capitalization is the town versus town. And so it kind of threw me when one of the sentences started with village and it was capitalized. And then I thought, gee, do we capitalize village? So if there's a way to sort of make clear that capitalization is only important for the town versus town and none of the other stuff has to be capitalized.
That was actually a question I had of, do you want to capitalize village or village core? I didn't through the plan, but you know, that I expected that you might want to talk about that and decide whether you want to capitalize those.
I'd say no. That is, I think generally in today's written language, capitalization is overdone.
Yeah, so then I'm not really sure how to address things that are not capitalized, Nancy. I mean,
But maybe just putting a sentence in that just says it. Is probably the easiest way to just say, this is, I mean, since we're talking about our definitions.
Well, except on the second page, second line down, village in parentheses there is capitalized.
That's because it begins the sentence.
Yes, and that's why I said it was confusing.
why don't I
Thank you. Sorry about that.
what
No,
if I change that sentence so it doesn't
Yeah.
start the word village? And if that's,
That's a good idea, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's kind of easier. You know, there are, of course, villages in New Hampshire that are municipal governments. And in those cases, I would have to differentiate and have a capital V, but let's just move that word in the sentence so it's not gonna throw the next person off.
Okay.
Even though you just talked about it, and yeah, okay, thank you.
Some people just read it.
I want to just make a comment on, there've been a lot of comments on the mapping. And I just want to remind the board that I didn't propose to provide any maps because I don't maintain my GIS software license anymore. I had proposed to just reference the NRI maps that you have. You know, I've tried to provide using online tools, free online tools. I've tried to provide some maps as when needed as illustrations of the plan, as graphics. So, you know, I think you need to view them a little bit different than maps, the graphics. And if you want maps, you need to pay somebody who has mapping software, who can, like, there was a comment on one of the base maps. I have no control over the base maps that are in your GIS online mapping. So, you know, it's just a comment that these are the tools we have to work with for free to illustrate some points with map-like graphics.
No,
Yeah.
Are you saying that we have?
We have a contract with the GIS company.
Okay.
And so if she's using, those are the official maps of the town. So if she's using what there is online or whatever, that's what we have.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I was
if there's
gonna,
a question about that, or you want something changed, then let me know and we can talk to, but I would not go out and get another group to do maps. We just talk to our existing vendor.
yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, because Mark, when you showed me that, you know, that system, I mean, yeah, it is the source of record, A, and B, I think the use of maps is good. I think any type of picture, you know, is worth 1,000 words type of thing. And I think we'd want to have consistency of, look, shape and feel throughout the document. So pick one. I would definitely vote for using that GIS system we have.
And some of the issues that have come up in your conversations are flaws in that system, like there's a shading that covers the street names. So when you ask me to put street names on a map, they're actually there, but you can't see them because of the way the cartographers at Cartographics did it. So I added some in Adobe. So, but I, in my mind, they're good enough as illustrations in a master plan, or I wouldn't have provided them.
Okay.
I actually had one other question, which is there a difference between village area and village?
No. But sometimes it just seemed in the sentence, it made more sense to be descriptive by saying village area.
Okay. I don't know whether we need to be explicit about that, because when I was taking notes, I kind of was writing out my own definitions and, just next to things. And I had written a definition for village area, and then, I came down and wrote a definition for village, and then kind of got confused. So I don't know if it's not clear to anyone else or just me.
Well, tell me, Nancy, what you wrote.
I wrote village area equals subject of master plan. Then I wrote the definition for town, and then the one for capitalized town, and then the one for village, and then the one for village core.
But how did you hear village? Just so I know how I'm using the terms. How did
Okay.
you hear village different than village area?
Well, the 1.1 talks about village area. So that's where I wrote down the definition is it was written here, which is the subject of the master plan. Then I went to the next page and wrote down the village definition was 471 private and municipally owned acres. And then I had to really think, gee, are these the same thing?
Isn't the word area, that doesn't refer to square area?
No, not to me. I was trying to be very literal and specific.
The village.
So I'm just letting you know I got confused.
No, I don't blame you. I interpreted it to mean a measurement of square area.
All right, I'll look at that, because it's just like saying the area around the pond. It doesn't ever mean the square footage around the pond. It means the vicinity of the pond. So if two of you are hearing it that way, I'll look at that.
Okay, area then means vicinity.
Yeah, I think you can just say, the village.
Or just avoid the term
The
area.
village is
Yeah,
giant.
So too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Just a sidebar that I think that this little dotted area to the left side of the village, I think that's where the water well is.
On the map,
I'm looking at the map.
Left-hand map.
Next page. Next page, that one.
Okay.
You see on the left side?
Yep.
Then to the left of the yellow border, there's a little dotted area.
I see it.
And I think that's the water well.
Again, that's from your online mapping. I can't control those lines.
I thought that was confusing.
Well, that's what we have to work with.
Some
Okay.
base map.
Fair enough.
And it's Packard or Packard, or what more?
What that map is doing is shading everything except the private it's shading the national forest owned lands.
Okay, understood.
Like Packard Field, Packard Road, or is it Packards? It should be.
Packard Road, Packard's Peak. Is.
One with, one without.
It's
We'll talk about that. at this level.
All right, so I updated all the other terminology, but then Packards I wasn't sure about here, so.
The standard for public safety is no possessives.
right,
You can have the S if you want it,
but not the apostrophe.
but not the apostrophe. is the standard 911 preference.
Okay. So Packard Road, Packard,
Is, that's what I understand from Dave. I'll
Okay.
verify.
So Mark, Snowsbrook, you guys told me last time to put an apostrophe in Snowsbrook Road.
I know,
Yeah.
and
That's the
and then
exception
I
to the
was
rule.
corrected. I was corrected. I'll email you, Tara.
Okay,
I'll-
because I went through that long list that you guys did.
Yeah,
Mm.
I will ask Dave about that. But he keeps yelling at me when I put apostrophes in.
So Bill, was it you that sent me a picture of a road sign with an apostrophe in it?
Yes,
Snows Mountain Road.
Snows Mountain Road has the apostrophe on the road
Yes, I
sign.
know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right, you guys figure that out and then tell me what to do.
we will.
all right, so Mark will follow up with that with Dave. Thank you. Okay. So should we move on to chapter 5,
Let's do it.
natural, scenic and historic resources.
So because I can't screen share, I printed out both the clean copy and the marked up one. So I should be able to get in the right place, whichever one you're looking at with your comments.
Yeah, just so you know, the marked up copy that you guys have has different page numbers than the clean copy that like John and I have, or
Okay.
I don't know which you guys are looking at virtually.
So I can flip to either.
Great. All right, should we,
I'll have the screen sharing solved by the next meeting. I made the mistake of upgrading to a new laptop
oh boy, yeah,
and now I need a new microphone.
oh no. All right, do we want to go through page by page or,
About maybe section by section?
okay,
So 5.1. Any comments on the changes?
I think they tightened it up.
I would say it's a very well written chapter.
yeah, no,
Even I like it.
wow.
You guys are my tough audience. I'm not afraid to say that.
It's gonna save us 45 minutes this morning.
That's right. I was gonna say, that's right.
We divvy it up.
We won't need another bathroom break if I shut up.
All right, Bill.
No, we haven't, Nancy hasn't given her a thumbs up yet.
I know,
Oh,
I
yeah,
know.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been kind of hindered. We've had a family reunion here and they just left this morning at 3:45 a.m. So.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have another crack at this. I mean, the goal right now is to really dig into each chapter, then have a look at the revisions, and then have a look at the whole plan once we're all together. So,
Yeah.
you know, you'll have a couple more cracks at it.
Okay, so
General
5.1.
comment to Tara, it's much better.
I think it's very good, yeah. So 5.1 looks good at this point. Okay, look at 5.2.
I find,
The-
Oh, Alan,
I find beginning to the north up the Mad Rivers,
where are you?
the very first paragraph.
5.2.
So second
Five-
line.
Second line.
After the
Yeah.
second after the comma.
Beginning to the north up the Mad River is just awkward.
Do you have something you'd recommend instead?
Yeah, I did in my head and I forgot it.
Maybe if I turn around so we're referencing the map on the right first, because that's what it's trying to say is that your groundwater's coming from way north of the town. That's why I have that graphic in there.
Instead of beginning to, could we say like originating from the north?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Good.
And well, then, after north, feeding the Mad River tributaries.
Or fed by.
No, we're talking about the groundwater here.
I'm assuming the Conservation Commission is fine with the substance of this chapter.
Yeah, the conservation, I ran it by, I heard from Irit that she was good with it. I did send it to the Conservation Commission.
If she's happy, everybody's happy.
Well, I mean, I would say just the idea of subsidiarity, I mean, it's their,
We can-
it's
yeah,
their,
we
you
can-
know, responsibility to make sure the language is correct as far as the substance is concerned.
Well, I could say along the Mad River tributaries. It's not coming from the tributaries if we're talking about groundwater, but
That's much
Yeah,
better.
yeah, that sounds good.
From the north.
Yeah, originally from the north along the Mad River tributaries. Yep,
Just want maybe clarifications.
sure.
Other than that, I'm not gonna question the Conservation Commission, certainly not Eric.
Wiseman.
Yes.
Okay. Anything further in 5.2?
she hasn't seen this revision yet. I'll make a note to send it to her as well.
Yeah, thank you. She'd appreciate that.
So the groundwater. And then the surface water.
Nice section here. Is that invasive species or is that wildlife? Field mice.
Say
would be
wildlife.
Wildlife, yeah, they belong
Hey, I want something about the moles and the voles.
here.
You know, that's why my work never gets boring. There's always that I haven't run into before.
Private matter between two parties. We're done with it.
Yes.
All right, so any comments on groundwater? Okay.
Hey, Mark, to clarify something on groundwater, all of our stormwater goes and drains into eventually the ground only, correct? Doesn't,
It
No.
goes
No.
to the Mad River, to Snowsbrook.
it seeps through the ground to the Mad River, is that correct? It's piped directly to the river?
Yeah, there are several culverts that go to the river.
So,
Open drainage, not just culverts.
so the stormwater, I mean, the storm drains in front of Green Peak, for instance, tri-pyramid in that area,
Those are ground, those go into the ground.
those go into the
We
ground.
don't have any storm enclosed stormwater systems except for the pipe that goes under Village Road and in between the Snowy Owl and the town square. That's really the only enclosed system that goes to Snowsbrook. Everything else is open drainage that I can think of right
Yeah, but that area does not go into the river. Well, eventually it drains down, but through the ground. Green Peak, Tri-Pyramid, High Country, all those areas.
Yeah, most of them go into the ground.
But it's
There are
not-
a few open drainage swales.
Yes.
That go directly into a stream
Yep,
or the river.
okay.
I think it was mentioned in this chapter, we're trying to get away from that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're trying
flow
to get
into
it
the
to
river.
go into the ground.
And so that's one thing you see in on the application that you just approved, is that
Yes.
that's, we asked specifically, and that stormwater leaves the site, but then goes into the ground.
Perch culvert, we don't want.
So any
There
other,
was a thought that that photograph of, what's it called, perch culvert?
yeah,
You know, that looks like some of those ominous photographs you see of pollution water flowing into.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Find another photograph.
Well, there's an
Was that-
explanation right beside it.
Right,
Yeah.
I just don't want that.
plus that it's in Thornton, not here, so
Yeah.
everyone thinks that,
Those dirty polluters.
We have a perch culvert,
yeah.
at least one that I'm aware of. On the Pond Loop Trail, where you're building that huge house.
Yes,
They put that culvert, is that a perch culvert? They put it up
It is,
above.
it's up above, yeah.
yes,
In any event,
We think it should be dug up
yes.
and depressed.
that's a,
So wait, I added that photo because somebody had said they didn't know what a perch culvert was, so I was trying to illustrate. So I looked for a photo of one that was nearby.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I think it's good.
Okay, we'll
Shows it.
self-complain.
So any other comments on the groundwater section? Nancy, you got anything on groundwater?
It makes sense. I was just running, because there was a lot of capitalized towns, so I was just substituting municipal government for town and seeing whether it all made sense. And I think the one place it might be better not to capitalize is on drinking water, because it's really the drinking water, not just for the municipal government, but for everyone, everywhere. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the municipal water system.
True.
That's why I capitalize it there.
Yeah,
I-
and that, it makes sense. So, you know,
I could add the word system. Well, it feeds the town's wells. I hear what you're saying. It's.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, just because sewer obviously is a municipal thing, you know what I mean? But water is so everybody's.
I'll do something to that, but I'm also counting on nobody else to think around that corner. We'll be glad if they read the plan.
Yes.
Outside
no.
planning board.
that provides water, drinking water to the water. to
Yeah,
the towns.
I get it.
Yeah,
I'll-
got-
I'll
you get it.
adjust that. I get it. We don't need
Yeah.
to reword it here.
exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Nancy just keeps me on my toes. That's.
Well, it's just because all the rest of it is really written so tightly now. It's great. So thank you for the rewrite.
We move on to wildlife.
I think surface water was next.
Yeah. I guess the surface
Did I
water.
miss the surface water? I thought we were just doing
We did groundwater.
We did ground.
groundwater. Sorry, I thought I said surface water.
Up to head to the perched culvert, but
Okay. So surface water,
Yes, we got as far as the culvert.
well, you brought us there, but.
any comments with surface water? Do you want to move on? Wildlife?
Yeah.
They must have really ranged over the eastern part of the town on coyote and
Yeah,
bobcat.
yeah, it's awesome.
That's what I'm guessing.
I especially liked that the first bullet point, though, is ensuring that small pets don't become food.
Yeah.
There's some truth to that.
Comes under the, don't feed the wildlife.
Yeah. And keep your dog on a leash, 2 birds.
That isn't beaver, is it?
No.
No.
It's different.
But we have beaver.
Never seen a river otter around here.
But they saw us. So
Guess you gotta
I'll
spend
say
more time in the
observation,
woods.
so
Yeah.
They observed. Not worth
Maybe we
noting.
should add the deer mice in.
That's right.
Not worth noting. They're everywhere,
Hundreds of them.
inside and out. Should hire you. You can, pluck all of those.
I did.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about that, you know, if they had to deal with it on site, that probably means putting poison out that could affect other animals as well.
We
They
don't have
noted
to-
it, no, they noted that, they're gonna work with the person who brought up the issue and they'll let us know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I would hope they wouldn't put
They're
down poison.
they're not,
Okay.
they know, they.
Good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all I could think of. If the board was to require them to deal with it, it would mean putting poison out. It seems like a better solution would be to them help pay to shore up the other building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To myself.
Yeah. Nice to pay their own building to do so.
Bills for hire, he said.
There you go.
I can vouch for his excellence and closing off households
Excellent.
and foundations.
Okay,
Okay,
so are we good with?
You know what works really well is steel wool.
yes.
It does, yes. Are we good with the wildlife section?
I presume all these maps are gonna be aligned.
Were you planning, Tara, for the map to be in this alignment? The mustard and green and purple one?
Yeah, it can be bigger this way, and you would ask for more detail.
Okay. It's bigger than that. I didn't see it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Now the reader can turn his book sideways.
Yeah.
Well, you could potentially.
Want to slide into invasive species?
I don't think that had any change other than writing out UNH.
Oh, I just heard from Nancy that she just lost power and the internet.
Oh, no.
Oh dear. She said she'll try to set up a hotspot with her phone, so she'll try to rejoin us. All right, so hopefully we'll see Nancy pop back up. Keep an eye out. Thank you.
Please don't let me forget the one comment about use of Zoom that we talked about yesterday before we end today.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
clicked my head.
No, yeah, me
Good.
too, I had it, you know. How about climate change?
But there were no changes there.
That's a good paragraph.
Dark skies, I was a step ahead of you. I already crossed out area there.
Very good. I see dark skies. Conservation Commission?
It's my favorite.
It is. How do you like the presentation?
It's lovely.
Okay,
As long as I have it in 5.6. Tara? And the contents?
5.3.
It's 5.3.
5.3.
But in the contents, did you put it as in 5 point? You know what I
I
mean?
think the table of contents will get updated once all the layout's done, right?
Okay.
Hold on. Did I forget to update the contents when I sent out the full draft?
Was there an updated table of contents?
Yeah, and it has the Conservation Commission as 5.3.
Okay,
When I sent out the complete draft, that has the updated table of contents.
Okay.
thank you. And we talked about where we were gonna put it.
Well, you didn't talk about moving it. You talked about giving it its own
I don't have it in-
heading number. I can move it, but it just, to me, didn't seem to make sense to move it to after historic resources when it pertains to everything we talked about in 5.1 and 5.2.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing I want to throw out there, I think we should make a reference to, because we reference like whitemountainhistory.org as a resource, but somewhere in here at the right place, our historical society.
Well, at 5.5, we'll get there.
Oh, I thought we were already there.
Oh,
Okay,
Five-
I'm ahead.
I
You're
think we're on
ahead.
5.3.
5.3 Conservation Commission, right? So we're good with that,
Good.
and then scenic resources?
Sorry, I have another.
Sure.
You just give me all. the
Thanks, Mark.
answers to the
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, just what we get this fixed.
All right, so historic resources?
And so that does list the Water Valley Historical Society as a resource in the beginning.
Uh,
It's the same.
Oh, that's a
yours?
clean copy, John.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I mean, it should be the same, but if it's easier to see on that.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I see the books. I don't see the historical society though.
It's after that. In the same sentence.
After Waterville Valley died, both Christina Smith and the Waterville Valley Historical Society.
Am I blind?
No.
On the edited copy, it's not on there, but
Right, right.
Huh?
No, wait,
That's weird.
it's on this one.
Okay.
Here it is.
Oh,
You don't hold
right.
it back, do
Yeah,
you?
yeah, no,
That
we're,
copy sounds.
I'm just blind.
Okay.
Would you like me to move it to the beginning of the sentence where it's the local group?
No, that's fine. Yeah, maybe we just add like in parentheses, like our .org URL. You know what I mean? So because we reference like the wildmountainhistory.org. And if people are reading this, they can be like, okay, well, that's good, but oh, okay, there's a website I can go see. And then, you know, like this is enough detail for a master plan, but then people could go down and see all of the things that
Yeah.
we're doing.
Sure.
I'll shoot that to you because we've had a couple of them, but
Great,
I forget what it is right now.
okay.
All right, good, great.
I'll send that on.
In some documents, URLs are printed in a different color.
Well, only if they're live links, which we will probably
Yeah.
do later.
That would be even better.
Couldn't stay away.
No, I got the copy.
Yeah.
Nancy, oh, good, need to let, oh yeah, you got her,
Oh, there she is.
good. Hey, hi Nancy. We're.
Sorry about that. We've just been losing power off and on this morning.
Oh, bummer. Well, we're just kind of towards the end of 5, we just at historic resources. Did you have anything we need to go back for?
Not off the top of my head, no.
All right. So if we're good with the rest of historic resources, we could move on to chapter 6. Okay.
Yes.
So 6.1, introduction.
Yeah, so that area thing.
Yeah, I'll do a search for that. We'll get it.
Okay.
We don't need to wait for those.
Okay.
The other thing I noticed, Tara, is that as you go through the various chapters, there's a repetitiveness about some of what we say, but I can't figure out a way not to have it. You know, we repeat several times, you know, that the town is thus and such, is located in thus and such. And I just don't know how to get around that if we want to, but it's just repetitive.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that too. But there are some so important points about, you know, that you are less than a square mile of the town, and the history is so unique that I think for any of the chapters to stand alone and make sense, there has to be a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, no, that's where I come down as well. I'm wondering if anybody here could think of a way, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I think the majority of the people who read this will go to a specific chapter, and how many people are gonna read the entire thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's a
And
good point.
remember, sometimes you need that repetition to really get. the
Well,
point down, right?
Yeah.
Right, and we're not gonna have an executive summary or anything, like, like a 2-page.
No, your executive summary is really gonna be
The action
the-
plan.
and the beginning section where you talk about vision and goals. I mean, I think
Okay.
those two things together could be printed as an executive summary.
And Tara, you had discussed before, we were gonna just do a search and destroy for the term village area and just shrink it to village everywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Search and destroy.
I don't know how to find that, but
Global replace. Global-
well, it could be satisfying at times.
So anything in the introduction besides the obvious things area? All right, moving on to zoning, 6.2.
I think we beat that to death last year.
Okay. Okay. everyone good
So
with
I
the-
didn't redo the map yet because I wanted you to decide whether you're okay with when we get to it, whether you're okay with the way I did the kind of 4A and 4B.
Oh, that's further on, that, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think we're there yet.
That's why I haven't, it takes so long to deal with these maps that I didn't want to change it until you're good.
So do you want to move on to 6.3, existing land use? And that's where the map is that she's talking about.
Right.
Right, annotated.
Oh, under village core, 4.A, the very last sentence, that referring to the town to sell the acreage to the chapel committee, that was kind of voted down at our town
Yes.
meeting. I don't know, but as it's like,
We want to take that out,
Yeah.
where it stands right now. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
let me
Bruce.
just, I missed that. Yes, we're no longer in discussions with the chapel committee for them to buy the land, although they will, I think, move forward and propose at a later time.
Yeah, so it's at least 2 years out, right? And,
So, but it's not.
but we will be back.
Well, so,
So do you
Trust
wanna
me.
keep it- So do you want to keep it in or not?
I
So-
want to keep, Rich, I want to keep it in because there's nothing actively on it.
Tara, what are you trying to say?
It's not a town initiative.
Okay.
that if the town might be part of this in some way in the next 10 years, I think you need it in the plan.
Well,
But maybe-
I'm on the committee. I can help put it together. And I would say that it's an initiative of the Chapel Committee. That's a nonprofit organization that wants to buy land from the town and the town not having because there's a religious overtone. So I don't think it's something that's appropriate for this, as much as I'd like to, promote that cause. Rich?
Rich, what do you?
Well, I was gonna say, I think as worded, it's not correct to say plans. Well, it is correct that plans have been in the works, but they no longer are in the works. for the town.
Maybe
Yes,
it,
sir.
Maybe something that's a
But
may.
they may come back depending upon what the chapel committee wants to do, so.
I understood what the town vote was, and I thought you might want to change the wording of this, but
Yeah,
maybe Rich could send me something that's more accurate.
Will do.
Thank you, Rich.
Because I mean, if you want the door open, it should be in the master plan.
sounds good to me.
Select board has
Still,
no opinion.
Still, it's a contentious issue.
Yeah.
Well, those are the ones you need to deal with in here. Head on.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
that's-
then say we should
This is
bury
where you
it.
go for guidance with contentious
Be careful
issues in
with
the
it.
future.
Okay, Tara, why would we
God
put this
forbid.
in at all if
Talk
it
about
wasn't
that.
mentioned in the 2019 meeting? That, the town listed all their priorities. Church, chapel, nothing like that was ever mentioned at that meeting.
There are a lot of other sources of information and goals in here. I mean, that was one discussion.
Well,
It is-
I'll equate it to,
The 2019 meeting is one source of information for the planning board, but the planning board gathers its knowledge of the town's desires from a lot of different sources.
Not to mention our previous master plans that we build off from, that a lot of those things weren't mentioned at the meeting either.
yeah, I'll kind of put like, the Historical Society, we are looking to, in a similar way, attain land to build a museum that's more than our little room that we have upstairs. And, that is something that we plan on, potentially going towards the town, so.
I'll work on some kind of language, it'd be something along the lines, chapel committees identified land.
Yeah.
That's interested in putting a chapel, it's very, very non-specific,
Yeah.
which is a true statement.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I was going back to the historical stuff that we
Yeah.
might want, if we're putting something like may look at the chapel. We want to maybe put, with the, just quick reference to Historical Society. Or do you just leave that because you gave the URL and we talk about that?
Oh, one second. I think we have that in the action plan, Rob. We have continue to work toward a museum or archives and other artifacts to be preserved and accessed for educational and research purposes.
You're right, that covers it. I'm good.
I have one comment on the map. In this section, Tara, I think you're gonna have to change the color.
I can't change the color. That's your
It's
thing. That's your online zoning map.
All right, we're gonna have to change the color on the zoning map then. 'Cause it's
But
no
I can't control that.
Village commercial south of Snowsbrook.
Oh. Good catch.
I'm sorry, north
Right, right.
of Snowsbrook. A portion of that is now Greenbelt.
Oh, yeah. No, your tax map contractor is the only one who can change that.
Okay, thank you.
Land that can never get used for.
If I make those maps, they will be updated with, they're always updated as of April 1st.
Oh, okay, so
okay.
April first, we'll get the,
Yeah. so
excellent,
that's
so then we'll capture it then. Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
The person-
That's, you, Alicia, you might need to make sure that they are aware that there was the zoning change.
Sharon,
Yeah, clear.
Yeah.
they're aware, Sharon's got it.
Okay, because I thought this map was more current than, maybe not, but I'll check. I have another town where they are years behind on the zoning, so I just always remind you to make sure they're on it.
Okay, what else in existing land use?
I didn't want, I'm gonna make the pitch for having the 4A and 4B. The reason I had put those areas together initially is because they have this close relationship from a land use perspective. I'd hate to have to identify them as two separate areas, the neighborhoods that relate to the village core. I thought I could put a dashed line between 4A and 4B in the map.
I think that makes sense.
And it helps explain why it makes sense to have VC across the street there
Right.
too. Can anyone think, I'll put this on Nancy, can anyone think of a better thing to call those neighborhoods as opposed to adjacent to village core? That's the best I could come up with at the time.
Mhm.
This is all that basically that BC area to the south of Snow's Brook and the pond.
Well, so if you look at what's drawn as 4 now,
Right, yeah,
4A would be just the village core. And 4B would be everything else around there that's now outlined as 4.
and the village core is not coterminous with C1.
No, you guys wanted the village core to be, well, go back to the introduction.
Yeah, there's VC as well.
Right. So
And-
you're talking into the east of Valley Road, is that
In rec,
adjacent?
there's rec and Greenbelt in there too, right?
Right.
Are we able to kind of draw 4A and 4B with maybe a dotted line in between?
Yes, that's what I plan to do. I just wanted you guys to chime in on the 4A and B idea before I spent time
Right.
finalizing that.
I'm sorry, I was just having trouble seeing where the line was, that's all.
It takes a surprising amount of time to take these maps and adjust them in Adobe, so I didn't want to spend that time until you were okay with the 4A and B.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I can't think of another term besides adjacent to village core. But
Well,
maybe
be
someone has a
thinking
brainstorm.
Next draft.
Yeah. Have a brainstorm though. Chime in. All right.
And then I added those I added the maps for those other areas of town to make sure that we don't forget them entirely, Ferncroft Road and 6 Mile Bridge.
Yeah, I think those maps are helpful.
Do you think calling it like outer village core would be confusing? Just because it's so
Yes.
much shorter. It would
Yes,
be-
I do. I think you've been clear what the village core is now.
I mean, the adjacent to.
Yeah, but to be outer village core, it has to be part of the village core.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's not really part of village. Well, I guess it depends where the line is.
Right, and you guys wanted the line in a very specific place, so.
Okay.
With that, the thing we used to call the town center, that you have a town core working group focusing on. You're gonna have to change the name of your committee.
I know. All right, so we have other areas of town. I think that looks very clear. That's forest gear. Can we move on to future land use? Any comments on future land use? We have the symbiotic nature of Waterville Valley, development limitations. All good?
Yep.
And then future land use issues.
Yeah.
Any thoughts for the future land use? We have the vibrant village core, the housing, vibrant village core, economic resilience, stormwater.
I have one, this is in the symbiotic nature, sorry. The paragraph that begins, the third paragraph, as the owner of the majority, and the land, we say the company's current development plan includes construction of 2 new hotels and a conference center.
Oh, I missed that. So not so much the conference center. Oh, except one of the hotels was gonna have a conference center in it.
Hotel with conference,
With
2
conference.
hotels, one of which will have
Will include yeah,
a conference center, because
right, it sounds like they're tearing down the conference center, and rebuilding it.
No, we'll have.
Okay, so we'll need to adjust that in the action item. I'll look for that. Because I think we have support their efforts to fix the one they have, so I'll check that wording too.
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, one of the things they talked about was moving some of their activities, events, to spend more of their time holding those at the mountain rather than in town. Specifically weddings. Their long-term plan, as I understand it, is to take most of their wedding business up to the mountain.
Right, will they be able to, and they could do 2 a day if they did that.
Right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to worry about the noise.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah. that's-
They
still have
sneak
the
it through now,
charters
so.
and-
Hear it from the mountain.
Okay. At the end of 6 here, so nothing else? No? All right, yeah, I think it looks really good, Tara.
Wait, so the next thing would be to set a date for talking about recreation and infrastructure, and my Thursday mornings are all yours until the last week of June.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
Okay.
all right, so.
You want that copy?
That's recreation, that was
I
recreation.
have got it on my side.
Sorry, do you think we can do both
Gotcha.
chapters in one session, or would you look at recreation? Cause that's a pretty big chapter.
Well, I think you could you could be ready for both, but it takes the time it takes. You don't want to rush any of it. I think people should be ready to talk about recreation and infrastructure.
Okay. So recreation and infrastructure.
And be sure to look at the parts of the action plan that go with each, because we'll want to talk about them together.
Right.
So we'll look at the recreation chapter, and then we'll look at the recreation items in the action plan, and then do the same for infrastructure. So I think it should be ready for all of that.
Okay.
Well, just as a note, if you're scheduling like a special meeting.
Yeah.
The first week in May, I'm the only one in the office on Thursday, so we can't do that.
So we'll stay away from the 5th.
So that first week of May, I'm running the show. So not me, that'd be great.
Okay.
Lucky you.
Run 4 shifts, that's not there.
If we look midway between this meeting and our next, it would be Thursday, the 28th. Is that a reasonable date for everyone? Yep. Any conflicts?
I won't be here,
You won't be here?
and Rich won't let me Zoom.
Well, we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be here either.
So do we want to look at the 21st, next Thursday?
I'm going to.
Okay.
May 21?
Yeah, no, April.
Oh,
It was April 28th as well.
April 21. I'm here.
Yeah, one of the days
April
20th
is when your office
Next week, the
closed.
office is closed.
Oh, the office
Hold
is
on,
closed.
I'm familiar. Hold on. Yes,
Okay.
the office is closed Wednesday, Thursday next week.
So
It's gotta be the 28th.
we just might just do
Let's talk about the
28th.
28th.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
do it for that. But if you guys read in the recreation infrastructure chapters, you can always send in thoughts to me or to Alicia.
Okay.
And we can make sure that they're included.
Okay.
Nancy, the
Okay.
28th, good for you?
Yeah, I'll be on Zoom, but I can do it.
Okay.
Or not.
Can you
well-
talk to us after?
Well, yeah.
That's our next on the
Okay.
agenda. Yeah.
We'll do it in this room.
Yeah, all our meetings
It
through
has to
summer
be,
will be
yeah.
here.
8 o'clock.
So if there's stuff, that you want printed ahead of time, because obviously we're here, so it's hard for me to print it ahead of time. If you just let me know a day or two ahead, I can get it all printed and then bring it, home with me and bring it here.
Or ideally, everyone would want to, if you don't already have a printout of the draft, request one from Alicia even today, and you could pick it up tomorrow and have plenty of time to read.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to screen share it again so that we can look at it together to make any changes.
Okay,
I'll take printed.
Okay.
It's better than.
As
it's
will I.
easier to make notes, right?
Fine, yeah, you just let me know at least a day ahead. I can print it.
Tree killer.
That's it.
Correct. And John.
Yep,
Use it to feed
thank
the
you.
mice.
Okay, so Thursday, the 28th, 8 o'clock for recreation and infrastructure chapters and action plan. Excellent.
Maybe workshop.
28.
Workshop. Okay, great. Before we get into the committee reports, wanted to talk about an aspect that had come up at the select board meeting yesterday regarding board members, town board members and using Zoom. Rich, do you want to
Sure.
talk about that?
So yesterday, the select board, it was actually on Truth in Advertising at my urging, looked at the participation in town boards and commissions that are based on state statute. And I and the board as well have become concerned that we're relying on Zoom too much for our participation, and that the preferred mode of operation for the obvious reasons, like being able to talk to each other and not talk over each other, And especially now in this environment, where we're in a different room and the audio visual isn't that great, is to insist as much as possible that anybody who wishes to be appointed onto a board should plan on attending every meeting except for an emergency situation or if something comes up, vacation is fine. So the board would strongly prefer that no member of the select board prefers that no member of another board, to the extent possible, participate in Zoom as a convenience, but rather as an exceptional, rarely used device. And we would ask anybody on boards or anyone asking to be on boards to make that commitment, because that's what you should be committing to when you join the board. So I throw that out there. It wasn't directed against any particular board.
Or any particular board member.
Or
It's
any
just a
particular
general-
board member or our commission. I'm talking about the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the ZBA, are the three had in mind. And there's also the question of quorum and the concerns about making sure we get a quorum at all the meetings, and sometimes the chairs having to make sure, crack the whip, whatever, to make sure they get the quorum that's needed. So if you're gonna, bottom line, if you can be in a board, you should physically attend the meeting. I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And unless there's an exceptional reason why you should not, and then we can provide some link, probably Zoom would be the best. So that was a decision that the select board came to yesterday, starting in May.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because it is challenging. There have definitely been some nail biting meetings for us where I wasn't sure that we'd make quorum. And especially in this board where we are under time constraints, if someone puts in an application and it's accepted as complete, the clock starts ticking. And if we have a meeting where we don't have a quorum, that could really put us behind the 8 ball.
Or if we're hostage to the vagaries of audiovisual reality. For example, if Mike was seated and he was going in and out, it would make it very difficult to have discussions and votes. That sort of thing is well played into it. So it's the quorum and it's the quality of the discussion that we can have.
Right. And as far as the public, we still want to encourage the public to attend as much as possible and use Zoom as a tool, right?
I would say what we decided to set that particular question aside. The town does have a YouTube live account that we would prefer that town folks use. And I think we will be addressing Zoom for public use in the future. And at this point, I couldn't tell you which way the board would look at it. I myself am not sure at this point, because I want to have the most participation. And but as far as the statutes are concerned, we just have to have we do not have to allow legally anyone to participate, but we do have to allow them the ability to attend.
Right.
So you can attend via YouTube.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
So what does that do for our April 28th meeting? Is it April 28th?
April
We're
28th,
still
it's
good.
not
We're
May
still
yet.
good.
It's not
Okay.
May.
We're still good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd like to think that where we have, this is, I think, going through the master plan, somewhat of an extenuating circumstance in that we all signed up for one regular meeting a month.
Mhm.
And we've, for the past, 5 months, had 2 meetings a month. And that's above and beyond the initial commitment for this board. So I would like to hope perhaps that, especially where it's not something having to deal with an application, that we'd be able to allow that participation if.
Yeah, I don't think the board, certainly wasn't my intent, the Bigfoot, the chairman or chairpersons of any of the boards or commissions, it's still up to their, I think, discretion. Whatever is, what is allowed by state law, we would just like to discourage the use except in exceptional
Right.
circumstances.
Well, it's hard because it was such a wonderful tool to get us
It
through the
is.
pandemic.
It
And
is,
we
yeah.
really, it was critical for us to
Absolutely,
be able to continue to get things done. But yeah, we can't roll forward like with everyone expecting to be able to attend virtually. New members especially who can't get a feel for the group, and it's hard to understand what's going on if you're not here.
It's been a few years for me and I still don't have a feel. Where it's growing, man.
Yeah. Anyway,
I should just go from meeting to meeting and make a determination.
yeah,
But as long as everyone has the expectation that you should be here, that was the main point.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Committee reports. So the town court group has sort of re-energized. We met this week, and our initial focus is going to be on continuing to, as the SE group put it, strengthen the spokes of the wheel, get people out from the hub of the town square, town center, to the different venues. Our first goal is to look at getting folks from the bike shop to Snows Mountain without flying over pedestrians in either the main entrance to town square or on the sidewalks. So we're looking at a rather basic signage system that will the select board approved yesterday, trying to get in place for this summer, that will help direct folks starting at the bike shop. Sorry, I didn't bring my map, around the corner of the ice arena, across what's now a very remedial trail, but that will be built out with like stone dust, so it's friendly for beginner bicyclists, across Village Road onto that cross-country trail, again, packed down a bit better, and then out from there to the north end. That was our first, and seeing how that goes and how the communication goes with that system, we'd be able to perhaps look at furthering, getting people to the athletic club or the rec department, not relying on their cars as much. So that's our first goal.
It's good.
Anyway, that's all I have from town court.
Yeah.
How wide are you making the path?
The exact hasn't been decided yet, but it's gonna be a town resort partnership to figure out what will be appropriate. I'm envisioning, since the second part of that, I don't know if you've been on that cross-country trail over there. I mean, there's a big tree down right now, which obviously has to get cleared out. I'm envisioning something that would allow a few bikes to pass each other, coming and going. So whatever width that would end up being for safety.
Hopefully there'll be some reconfiguration of Nelson Path with pedestrians,
Yes.
but we'll see what happens there.
We'll see. Yeah.
We set no conditions on that, we just made wishes known.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Right now, that cross-country ski trail is kind of a trail that would work.
Yeah. That's where people are going.
Yeah.
Get them out of that intersection and just stop and looking at maps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's what you
Yeah.
guys were trying to.
Right, and where the Snows Mountain left is the biggest draw for those, especially, I don't know, visiting for, a few days.
To go to the chair.
And, to the chairlift and bomb down the hill.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider in all of this is that hopefully, knock on wood, whatever
Yeah.
real wood around here. Never any real, like when middle forces. But anyway, that we'll be starting as soon as, not that we're gonna pick from those who make the bid this month for the road repaving
Yes.
project from Valley and Gorilla really from Triple I, and that what then becomes Valley, all the way down to Tecumseh. Hang that left at the end of Tecumseh, Snows Brook, all the way down, past the village, and then keeping on going in front of this construction we talked about, and ending at Village, and there will be a pedestrian way
A
along
multi-use-
that whole
multi-use
length.
pathway.
A multi-use, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful with calling it a bike pathway.
Right.
It's multi-use.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't want, it's not reserved just for people zipping along
exactly.
on their bikes.
Yeah, and yeah, the town core will hopefully be involved in that as well and helping to
Right,
figure out appropriate signage or
right.
coloring,
Gonna paint the road and-
texturing.
I have to look and see, I forget what the pedestrian study had, it was just.
Yeah,
white.
they had, yeah, and,
symbols.
and using
Right.
sharrows. Yeah,
In other communities, the roads have been painted.
Yeah.
At least a different color. Say, bicycles, you go here.
Right.
Because pedestrians are here.
right. And some
We
sort
don't
of,
want accidents.
right,
Yeah, I don't think
exactly.
that's part of the plan at this point.
So we had talked about some sort of delineation, like
A line,
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 painted
texture,
lines.
or like some texturing to prevent
Or
cars from
texturing,
going
yeah.
over, and then
something.
something else.
Is Green Peak gonna do their sewer stuff before we pave the roads?
Yeah, so that's all being coordinated with them. And surprise to me, but actually it's better for them, actually for us to get most of our pavement down while they're still building there because all the heavy equipment smushes it down, which is what we want once we put it down. But yeah, we're coordinating. We have our town engineers. They've already begun coordinating with the Tyrell Corporation on that whole ballet that's gonna have to go on.
Okay.
Between heavy equipment in the road and all of that.
Not like big cities, where they wait until the new road has been paved and finished before they.
Yeah.
That's in the union
It's not
contract.
only big cities.
Yeah, that's in the union contract. It's a job protection.
It's a New York special.
Yeah.
All right, Conservation Commission? Anything?
I don't have really that much to report. We were actually the guinea pigs in here the first meeting to see if everything worked. That went pretty well, I think. And our new member, Jenny Lucas, she's official now. She's in, she was here.
Yeah.
We're still we're still waiting for Rick Vanderpool to come in for the mitigation for the silt coming down into the pond. And we may have to dredge the pond one more time before all of that is said and done.
It's in the CIP, I think 2 years from now.
Yeah.
700,000.
700. So after Rick's magic gets in there, we might not have to do that again ever. So, or
Or at least,
Less frequently.
less.
maybe in our lifetimes.
Yeah,
Not every 10 years or
Right.
whatever, 15 years, but something much more.
that's what we discussed, and there wasn't much more than that.
Excellent. You reminded me with mentioning Jenny, we do have a new member here as well on the planning board. She was appointed yesterday, Morgan Dean. So
Yay,
she'll be a new alternate.
we know her.
She's been notified?
I haven't, but I'm sure they've gotten back to Morgan about her application. Well, you guys have been busy here since then. We did it last night, now they're here.
That's true. Yes,
this
yes,
morning.
exactly.
She will be
She will be
notified.
notified.
12 hours ago. she did.
Yeah. Maybe she wants to.
So maybe she's listening here, Morgan,
Right.
yay.
She's reconsidering.
No,
She may want to come in on the 28th.
right, yeah.
It'll be coming in cold to the master plan.
I'll get her contact stuff from Mark.
Get it
Add
all,
it to the-
all her packets.
add it to the list. Nick,
Yes.
how come you're still Nick?
I don't know.
I know, you gotta change
Nick will
that.
live on forever in town.
You gotta change that.
I'm from the know that Southern California.
All the emails I get from Nick Giuliani. Nick, I never get anything from
I think
Alicia.
that's what it is.
I always get it from Nick.
I get a Lisa.
I don't know.
Yeah, I get
I'm just the chair of the select board. I get Nick.
I get Nick too, but I get signed by.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I updated it on my end, so I don't know.
You were never approved.
I guess not. I wasn't approved for the new.
Any communications? There's just looking it up here, sorry. A couple of things through the BEA, Office Planning and Development for planning, both planning lunches and a couple of Saturday seminars. Do you get those?
Did I send those out last, like the
Yeah.
last meeting?
Yeah.
Did everyone get that?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone's aware of that. Okay. Good. Okay.
Anything we can do to improve emailing or Wi-Fi in here?
It's a whole lot better than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
We don't know, yeah.
This
Are you
is,
looking
Working
for,
with what we got.
there is
Yeah.
there is a signal.
this is supposed to be
They
the
don't-
strongest signal
This is the
in
strongest.
the, in the.
The,
in this
the
complex.
connection's been fine. The connection's been super. They're not having any issues with the signal.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
They say they have a T1 around town. But you're talking about not being able to.
They
log on.
don't like to give out,
They're not
they
giving,
don't give out the
they're
password.
not giving up, they just gave it to us for,
Yeah, it's a closely guarded secret.
where the rent is.
Many have tried.
We've rented this room, or we've rented this room for 3 months.
We'll hack
Like they couldn't donate it to the town.
Anyway,
No.
we're grateful to have the space to conduct our meetings indoors. It would be chilly outside today. All right, so calendar review. So we have our workshop for rec and infrastructure chapters on Thursday, the 28th at 8 o'clock. Oops, and then our regular May meeting, my calendar, would be May 12th at 8 o'clock, and both meetings again here. Any other matters to be brought to the board? Anyone? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
Excellent.
All those in favor, Wendy Rathgeber, aye.
John Racine, aye.
Rob Wilson, I.
Alan Burko, aye.
Bill Spence, aye.
Richard,
Nancy Knight, aye.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Done. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy.
Alan, 2 weeks.
Alan, on 6.2.